On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and his wife Sophie were assassinated in Sarajevo. The motive, according to the assassin, Gavrilo Princip, was to end Austro-Hungarian rule in Bosnia. But the ripple effects of this act would be felt across the globe. Within weeks, Europe was at war, and by August, the conflict had expanded into a global war that would last for 4 long years. So how did an assassination in Sarajevo trigger World War I? Let's find out. Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring the events leading up to the outbreak of World War I. More specifically, we'll examine how the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand set in motion a series of events that plunged Europe into chaos and sparked one of the deadliest conflicts in history. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Now let's dive into the France for Ferdinand and the start of World War I. June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and his wife Sophie arrived in Sarajevo. They were greeted by a large crowd, but among them were members of a group called the Black Hand, a secret society dedicated to ending Habsburg rule in the Balkans. Tensions were high as the Archduke's motorcade made its way through the streets. Suddenly, a young man named Gavrilo Princip stepped out from the crowd and fired 3 shots, fatally wounding both the Archduke and his wife. Princip was immediately arrested, and within days, the Austro-Hungarian government had blamed the Black Hand for the assassination. Austria-Hungary was prepared to act swiftly and decisively, and they wanted to crush the Black Hand once and for all. But before declaring war on Serbia, Austria-Hungary needed support, and they turned to their ally, Germany. German Chancellor Theobald von Bethmann-Hollweg and Kaiser Wilhelm II were initially reluctant to support Austria-Hungary's plans for intervention in the Balkans. However, they ultimately decided that supporting Austria-Hungary was in Germany's best interest. And so the Germans pledged their unconditional support, which emboldened the Austrians to take more aggressive action. On July, Austria-Hungary presented an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding, among other things, that Serbia allow Austria-Hungary to enter the country and pursue the Black Hand members responsible for the assassination. The Serbians accepted most of the demands, but refused to allow Austrian troops to enter Serbia. This refusal was seen as a sign of disrespect by the Austrians, who were already eager to take action. On July, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, and within days, they began their invasion across the Serbian border. But while Austria-Hungary was prepared to fight a small war against Serbia, they were not prepared for the larger conflict that was about to unfold. You see, in the summer of 1914, Europe was a powder keg just waiting to explode. There were a number of factors that contributed to this, including a complex web of alliances that had developed in the preceding decades. But perhaps the most important factor was the growing tensions between Germany and Great Britain. These tensions had been building for years, but they came to a head in 1912 when the First Balkan War broke out. The war was fought between the Ottoman Empire and a coalition of Balkan states, including Serbia. Germany supported the Ottomans, while Great Britain supported the Balkan states. And so when the war broke out, it was essentially a proxy war between Germany and Great Britain. When the war ended in 1913, it became clear that Germany had lost its empire in the region. This humiliation, combined with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, led Germany to seek a quick and decisive victory in the conflict. As such, they formulated a plan to invade neutral Belgium and capture Paris in a swift move that would hopefully end the war before Russia could get involved. But this plan required secrecy, and so they kept it hidden from their ally, Austria-Hungary. On August 4, 1914, everything changed. Germany declared war on Russia. 2 days later, they also declared war on France. With these declarations, Europe was officially at war. The Schlieffen Plan is the name given to the overall strategic plan devised by the German Empire for the war against France and the reason why Germany chose to declare war on Russia first. According to this plan, Germany would begin by invading neutral Belgium and Luxembourg in order to quickly reach Paris and force the French into a quick surrender. Once the French were defeated, Germany would then turn its attention to the Russians and the rest of the Eastern Front. Now, you may be wondering why Germany didn't simply declare war on France and Russia at the same time. After all, wouldn't this have allowed them to focus their forces on one front rather than having to fight two separate wars? Well, yes, it would have been tactically smarter to do so, but the Germans feared that if they did, they would be fighting a two-front war. See, since the beginning of the conflict, the Germans knew that the Russians would mobilize their troops and join the fight. But they hoped that if they acted fast enough, they could defeat the French before the Russians could get involved. If they had declared war on both countries at the same time, they would have been forced to face the Russians sooner rather than later. And that would have been a much bigger problem for the Germans, because, as we said before, they were hoping to defeat the French first. And that would have been much easier to do if they hadn't been bogged down by a conflict in the East. Another reason why the Germans wanted to defeat the French first was because they believed that France was the weaker of the two opponents. By declaring war on France, Germany hoped to win a quick and decisive victory that would demoralize the British and end the war before the Russians could join the fight. Additionally, by defeating the French, Germany hoped to capture valuable resources that could be used to sustain the war effort. Ultimately, the German plan was to win the war in the West and secure their position in the East. By doing so, they hoped to end the conflict quickly and with as little bloodshed as possible. However, as we all know, the war dragged on for years and resulted in millions of deaths. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28, 1914, was a pivotal moment in European history. In the aftermath of the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July, marking the beginning of World War I. However, it was Germany's declaration of war on Russia on August 1st that truly shifted Europe into a state of chaos. By declaring war on Russia first, Germany hoped to prevent a two-front war, allowing them to focus their forces on defeating the French before the Russians could join the fight. This plan was part of the Schlieffen Plan, which aimed to capture Paris quickly and end the war before the conflict in the East could escalate. Unfortunately for Germany, the plan failed and the war soon became a stalemate, eventually leading to the entry of the United States and the defeat of Germany. So what do you think? How do you think the assassination in Sarajevo led to the start of World War I? And do you think Germany made the right decision by declaring war on Russia first? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to like and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.